A love story that once changed two lives is about to be tested again. After years of silence, a single night in Los Angeles forces two people who thought their happy ending was already written to face the truth. Some connections never fade, even when time tries to erase them. Los Angeles glows like a city wearing diamonds. The lights shine across the tall buildings, cars move like rivers of gold, and the world feels louder, faster, and more demanding than ever. In the middle of all this noise, one man walks quietly through the lobby of a luxury hotel. His hair is silver now, but his presence still carries the same calm strength. This is Edward Lewis, once known as a powerful businessman who could take over a company with a single phone call. Today, he is a man who has stepped away from that life. He spends his days reading, traveling, and trying to understand what it means to live without the nonstop chase of success. But behind his peaceful smile, there is a sense of something missing, something he never replaced. Across the city, another figure steps out of a black car in front of a glowing auditorium. Cameras flash, people cheer. A woman walks the red carpet with confidence, carrying herself with a grace she did not have years ago, but a warmth she never lost. Vivian Ward, once a woman searching for a chance, is now the founder of a charity that helps young women build new lives. She speaks at events, supports communities, and has become a symbol of hope for many. The world sees her as strong, brave, and inspiring. But when she is alone, she still holds on to small memories tucked away in her heart, memories she never speaks about. Vivian pauses at the entrance of the auditorium as the noise fades for a moment. She looks out at the city lights and smiles gently, as if remembering a different time on these same streets. The wind blows softly, lifting her hair the way it once did when she stood outside the hotel all those years ago. She quickly shakes the memory away and walks inside, telling herself that some chapters are better left closed. Meanwhile, Edward sits in a quiet hotel lounge, staring at the untouched tea on the table. He watches people moving around him, couples laughing, friends sharing stories, business partners shaking hands, but none of it touches him. His mind drifts to the past, the night he climbed a fire escape, the moment he held out his hand, the sound of her laugh and the way she changed him without even trying. He clears his throat and forces himself back into the present, but the memories keep returning, uninvited yet familiar. A soft piano melody plays in the hotel, and somehow it reminds him of the opera night they once shared, a night that opened both their hearts to something they didn't expect. He closes his eyes, letting the music wash over him, feeling as though life is gently pushing him towards something he had tried to ignore. At the same moment, miles away, Vivian finishes her speech to a cheering crowd. She smiles brightly, but as she leaves the stage, her expression softens. She sits alone backstage, scrolling through old photos on her phone, pictures from charity events, interviews, and celebrations. Then, without meaning to, she opens a folder she rarely touches. A picture of her and Edward from years ago fills the screen. She pauses. Her breath catches slightly. She quickly locks the phone, almost as if she had seen something she wasn't supposed to. Outside the auditorium, a car is waiting for her, but something inside her whispers that she should stay a little longer, breathe in the night air, and think about where she is now and where she came from. She stands under a street lamp, listening to the distant sound of city traffic, and wonders why the past suddenly feels so close. Edward, still in the hotel lounge, receives a message from an old business friend inviting him to a high-profile charity gala, one hosted by none other than Vivian's organization. He hesitates. His hand shakes slightly over the screen. He tells himself that attending would mean nothing, that he is simply supporting a good cause. But deep inside, a truth he has avoided for years rises slowly. He has never truly let her go. Vivian also receives a message from her assistant, reminding her that the same gala is only a few days away. She nods, barely reading the text. She has planned this event for months. It is important. It will raise money for people who need it. But as she steps into her car and closes the door, a quiet thought settles in her heart, one she cannot push away no matter how hard she tries. What if he shows up? The city moves on around them, unaware that two paths, once joined, then separated, are slowly turning back toward each other. Neither of them knows what will happen. Neither of them is ready. But destiny, love, and unresolved feelings have a way of pulling people together when the time is right. And tonight, the first signs of that pull have already begun. The night of the charity gala arrives like a soft drumbeat spreading across Los Angeles. Expensive cars glide up to the entrance of the grand venue, camera flashes paint the air white, and elegant guests step onto the red carpet with practiced smiles. Inside, the hall glows with golden lights reflecting off tall glass windows. Everywhere, people are talking, laughing, networking. Yet beneath all the noise, something deeper is building, something neither Edward nor Vivian knows is coming. Vivian stands near the stage, adjusting the silver bracelet on her wrist. She chose it because it reminded her of a simple necklace she once wore many years ago, back when her life looked completely different. Her assistant follows beside her, listing names of guests, sponsors, and donors, but Vivian only nods politely. Her mind is half present, drifting to thoughts she tried to bury. She tells herself she is fine. She tells herself she has moved on. But as she looks out at the growing crowd, a quiet worry rises inside her. What if tonight changes everything? Meanwhile, outside the venue, Edward steps out of a sleek black car. For a moment, he stands still, staring at the building as if it holds every memory he tried to forget. His driver offers to open the door. But Edward waves him off, wanting a moment to breathe. The cool night air brushes his face and he closes his eyes, feeling a strange mix of fear and hope. He reminds himself that he is here for charity, for a good cause, nothing more. But his heart beats harder than it should, and deep down, he knows why. As Edward walks toward the entrance, a group of reporters notices him. Cameras begin clicking rapidly, and questions fly through the air. Questions about business, retirement, and future plans. Edward answers politely, but his eyes keep drifting toward the shimmering entrance doors. He hesitates before pushing them open, almost wishing he could walk away, yet something inside him refuses to turn back. Inside, Vivian continues to greet guests, shaking hands and offering warm smiles. She is graceful and composed, but her heartbeat speeds up every time someone enters through the main doors. She keeps telling herself that he will not come, that life is not a movie, that people from the past rarely return at the perfect moment. But then, as she looks toward the staircase, she sees a tall figure pause at the top. Her breath catches. Edward. He is standing in a tailored black suit, looking around the room with a mix of uncertainty and quiet longing. He hasn't seen her yet. For a moment, everything around Vivian fades. The music, the chatter, the lights. There is only the sight of him. Older, wiser, but still carrying that familiar charm she once fell in love with. She quickly looks away, pretending to review the event program, but her hands tremble slightly. She feels unprepared, as if time has spun backward and brought back emotions she thought were locked away forever. Edward slowly begins walking down the stairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. He scans the room with searching eyes, unsure what he hopes to find. Then, across the hall, he sees a flash of red hair. For a moment, he wonders if he is imagining things. But then she turns. Their eyes meet across the crowd. The world stops. Not for long, not even for a full breath, but long enough for both of them to feel the shock of recognition, the weight of years, and the sudden rush of every unspoken word between them. Edward's lips part slightly, but no sound comes out. Vivian forces a polite smile, small, tight, and shaking at the edges. She nods once, acknowledging him, but her eyes tell a different story, a story of surprise, pain, and something like fear wrapped in hope. Before either of them can move, Vivian's assistant calls her away, pulling her back into the moment. She excuses herself and walks toward the backstage door, but her steps are a little too quick, her shoulders a little too tense. She needs a moment to breathe, to collect herself, to understand why her heart feels like it's racing towards something she isn't ready to face. Edward watches her disappear behind the curtain, feeling a sharp pang of regret. He hadn't expected this. He thought time would dull the emotions, make everything easier. But seeing her again feels like opening a book he never finished reading, one he has always wondered about. As the event continues, Edward tries to mingle with other guests, but his attention keeps drifting toward the backstage area. Vivian tries to focus on her speech notes, but her hands keep shaking. Their worlds, once so far apart, have suddenly collided again, and neither of them knows how to handle the impact. The lights dim, signaling the start of the main event. The audience slowly finds their seats. Vivian steps onto the stage, her heart pounding, and Edward takes a seat near the front. The room grows quiet as the spotlight lands on her. She looks out at the crowd, and her gaze meets a Picam is again. This time, she doesn't look away. She takes a slow breath, steadies her voice, and begins her speech, unaware that tonight is only the beginning of something far bigger than a reunion, something that will change both their lives again. Vivian finishes her speech with a steady smile, but inside she feels a storm forming. As the applause fills the room, she looks down at her notes, pretending to organize them. In truth, she just needs a moment to keep her hands from shaking again. She knows she must face him sooner or later, but her heart is not ready. She had built a new life, a strong one, and seeing Edward tonight felt like opening a door she had locked years ago. Part of her wants to close it again, and another part wonders if she ever should have closed it at all. Edward sits in his chair long after the applause stops. Everyone around him rises, chatting about the event, praising Vivian's work, taking photos, but he doesn't move. His eyes stay on the stage where she stood just moments ago. Her voice, her smile, the quiet power she radiates now, all of it pulls him back to a time he has tried so hard to leave behind. For years, he convinced himself that the choices he made were the right ones. But seeing her again brings back every doubt, every what if, every moment he wished he could rewrite. Vivian steps backstage, leaning against a wall, letting out a slow breath she had been holding. Her assistant asks if she is all right, and she quickly nods, forcing a smile. But the truth presses against her chest. She remembers the rooftop, the opera, the limo rides, the way Edward once looked at her, not like she was someone to fix, but someone worth choosing. She tells herself this is just nostalgia, nothing more. But the tremble in her hand says otherwise. In the main hall, Edward finally stands, adjusting his suit jacket as he tries to gather his courage. He walks toward the refreshment area, hoping the noise and crowd will help calm his thoughts. But nothing removes her from his mind. He lifts a glass of water, staring into it, as though searching for answers at the bottom. He tells himself he doesn't need to speak to her tonight, that he can leave quietly, respectfully. That maybe time has changed her so much she won't want to see him anyway. Yet something inside him argues back, softly at first, then louder. You came here for a reason. Vivian returns to the floor a few minutes later, composed but fragile on the inside. As she walks among the guests, accepting congratulations and sharing polite conversations, she occasionally scans the room without even realizing it. And each time she fails to find him, her chest tightens slightly. It surprises her. She didn't expect to care, not after all these years. But the truth is becoming clearer. Part of her wants to see him. Part of her needs answers she never got. Finally, their paths cross near the center of the hall. Neither of them speaks at first. The music fades into the background. The crowd seems to slow. And for a brief moment, it feels like they're the only two people standing in the room. Edward offers a polite smile, small, hesitant, respectful. Vivian returns it, but her eyes reveal a mix of emotions: surprise, fear, longing, and something she doesn't dare name. Vivian, Edward says softly, almost unsure if he has the right to say her name anymore. She swallows, forcing herself to breathe evenly. Edward, she replies, keeping her voice steady even though her heart is racing. There is a long pause between them, long enough for memories to fill the space, long enough for silence to speak louder than words. They exchange a few polite sentences, the kind of forced small talk people use when they are trying not to reveal what they truly feel. But every word feels heavy. Every glance feels loaded with history. Vivian can sense the questions in Edward's eyes, the ones he is too careful to ask. Edward can sense the wall she has built, strong and perfectly placed, yet somehow trembling. Neither of them knows how to break through the fear, the guilt, the unresolved things between them. Then, as a group of guests approaches Vivian, she steps away, excusing herself. Edward watches her go, feeling the sharp sting of something unspoken slipping away again. He turns to leave the hall, deciding that maybe this night was meant to close a chapter, not reopen it. But as he reaches the exit, he turns back for one last look. Vivian is standing across the room, shaking hands with guests, but her eyes are searching. Searching for him. Their gazes meet again, unexpectedly, strongly. And this time, neither of them looks away. In that brief connection, a truth hits both of them at once. The feelings they thought were buried were never gone. They had only been sleeping. Vivian excuses herself from the guests and steps away from the crowd. Edward feels his heart pound, unsure what she is about to do. She walks to the far side of the hall where the noise fades above, and the soft glow of city lights shines through a large window. She stands there quietly, waiting. Edward hesitates only a moment before he follows. The space between them collapses once again. Not by chance, but by a pull neither of them can resist. Vivian stands near the tall window, the city lights glowing behind her like a million tiny stars. She doesn't move when she hears Edward's footsteps approaching. She doesn't speak either. Her heartbeat drums loudly in her ears, and for a moment she wonders if she should walk away before he reaches her. But her feet refuse to move. Something inside her whispers that running now would be a mistake she might regret forever. Edward stops a few steps behind her, unsure how close he is allowed to stand. He watches her reflection in the window, noticing the way her shoulders on and fall with each breath. She looks strong, but there is something fragile beneath the surface, something he feels responsible for. He quietly clears his throat, trying to find the right words. But words suddenly feel too small for the weight of everything between them. "It's been a long time," he finally says. Vivian slowly turns toward him. Her eyes shine with careful control, but he catches the flicker of emotion she tries to hide. "Yes," she answers softly, "a very long time." Silence fills the space again, but this time it feels heavier. Neither of them knows how to start talking about years of distance, unasked questions, or the choices that shape their separate lives. Vivian folds her arms, not as a shield, but as a way to steady herself. Edward's gaze remains steady, as if he is afraid that if he looks away, she might disappear again. "I didn't expect to see you," Vivian says, her voice low, almost fragile. Edward nods. "I wasn't sure I should come." "That makes two of us," she replies with a small breath of laughter, one that carries more sadness than humor. Edward steps closer, not too close, but close enough that she can feel the warmth of his presence. "You look happy," he says carefully. He means it. She has become everything he once hoped she would be: strong, confident, full of purpose. But saying the words feels like pushing a knife into his own chest. Vivian looks away toward the city, avoiding his eyes. "I've worked hard for this life," she says. "It wasn't easy, but I'm proud of what I built." "You should be," Edward replies with quiet admiration. "You changed so many lives. You've changed the world more than you know." She smiles softly, but something inside her twists. Because the truth is, in all the things she built, in all the ways she grew, there was still a missing piece she never dared to face. And he is standing right in front of her. Edward hesitates, feeling the tension in his chest tighten. "Vivian," he says slowly, "I never stopped thinking about you." Those words hit her harder than she expects. She closes her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. She wants to pretend his words don't affect her, but her voice gives her away. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" he asks, stepping just a little closer. "Because they hurt," she whispers. Edward's expression breaks, his guilt rising to the surface. "I'm sorry for everything, for leaving the way I did, for not calling, for thinking I was protecting you when all I was doing was running from what I felt." Vivian turns towards him fully now, her eyes steady. "You made your choice, Edward. I had to make mine. We grew, we changed, and life moved on." "Yes," he says softly. "But some things don't go away, no matter how many years pass." She shakes her head, trying to push away the emotions rising inside her. "We can't go back. We're not those people anymore." "I know," he replies, "but maybe that's why we should talk. Really talk. For the first time in years." Vivian looks down at her hands, twisting the bracelet on her wrist. She feels the truth pressing against her heart. She does want to talk. She wants to know why things happened the way they did. She wants answers. She wants closure, or maybe something else she isn't ready to admit. But before she can speak, a loud burst of applause erupts from inside the hall. The charity auction has ended, and people begin spilling into the lobby. The quiet space by the window fills with movement and conversation. Vivian steps back instinctively, the moment between them breaking like glass under pressure. Her assistant rushes toward her. "Vivian, they need you on stage for the closing remarks." Vivian nods, but her eyes are locked on Edward's. She wants more time. She wants the conversation they didn't get to finish. But duty pulls her away again. Edward offers a small nod, understanding but hurt. "Go," he says softly. Vivian hesitates, then turns and walks toward the stage. She takes a few steps before stopping. She looks back at Edward, just one last look, and he feels something shift in motion. She doesn't smile. She doesn't speak. Yet her eyes tell him she isn't finished. Not tonight, not anymore. Edward watches her take the stage again, speaking confidently to the audience. But this time her voice carries a trembling warmth, because she knows he's watching. And in that moment, the rising drama becomes clear. Their story isn't ending. It's only beginning again.